My goodness, if you love the peel, you're gonna love the Vision.
Good people, this is my favorite version of the O11 series so far, partially because of the glass. The top glass reveals the system, and I think regardless of what you put inside, it looks absolutely gorgeous. For example, I went with full blackout hardware to complement the black enclosure, and even though the RGB is only minor, it's stunning, but also going with a white enclosure and tastefully adding RGB fans and going full out on the RGB hardware on the white model. Wow. But it's actually the user experience that makes me really appreciate Lian Li and what they're doing with case design. Like this is the PC Master Race collab where Pedro gave feedback to Lian Li that was directly integrated that made the Vision possible. So perhaps drop a like if you'd like to see a Hardware Connects edition sometime in the future. But they made one huge mistake, something that I will never forgive them for, and that is not including a spray bottle and a microfiber cloth, because you'll be cleaning this thing constantly. Just be warned, okay? Now size-wise, here's the big daddy, the XL, then the smaller matured brother everyone keeps talking about, the O11 Dynamic Evo, and then we have this slightly wider Vision but the same height as like the next child that's going to be unstoppable. And they've actually incorporated a few useful features from the XL, like a removable motherboard tray that the O11D Evo doesn't get. Normally I prefer white cases for their style, but here with the black edition and the triple TG glass that is slightly tinted, you have a bit of reflection happening, so you can tell that you have three-piece tempered glass. While Lian Li decided to go with an all clear glass on the white model that has the benefits of like not hiding any of your hardware, but you notice less of the glass, especially the top piece. So the white model kind of reminds me of an open style frame, which some people I think would love, but some people might not so much. Before we get inside, here are the things you need to know about the glass. To create this almost invisible seam between the three panels, you notice it doesn't have the usual blackout or the whiteout perimeter. This makes handling the glass a little bit tricky because you'll get fingerprints right at the edges unless you handle it by the blackout or the whiteout corners. The corner on the white model has this dotted fading effect to hide the gray underneath. Really clever. The front glass is removable, but it's a little tricky and it's not necessary for assembly. Lian Li actually recommends you don't remove it. However, you can remove the top or the side panels independently of one another. To the most part, the build quality is fine. Unfortunately, there is a bit of glass rattle when everything is assembled and put together. The magnetic corner helps to stabilize the panels, but also keep in mind there is no structural support on that side and just something you have to live with and be careful. There is a bit of an alignment issue on my white model, creating a bit of a gap in this part of the enclosure, which is perfectly flush on the black model. And because the top now is a glass piece, it will reveal absolutely everything, curved cables coming from behind the motherboard tray, whatever else you don't clean up and everything. So it's good because now everything's on display and they kept it for consistency's sake. Like I was thinking, why not create a little bit of a blackout area right above the motherboard tray, but then it wouldn't be consistent with the front panel. Which is why I ended up building this black beast behind me, black hardware, black cables, so everything fit nicely with the vision or the intended vision of this new case. And speaking of fitting in, let's hear a message from today's video sponsor. Good people, you know Lian for their incredible microphones and versatility of the Mod Mic series. And now you can explore a whole new world of IMs with their new Kimura lineup with a proper low profile, sounding excellent microphone. They work with almost any MMCX and 2-pin connectors, so you can utilize the microphone on your favorite IEM, but the pre-built combos of the Solo and Duo are a great introduction to detailed audio and sweet soundstage plus this clear microphone. These are still in my audio rotation when I don't want headphone hair or a giant mic in my face, so check them out below. Welcome back. So the interior of this case can be broken down into two main features, adjustable motherboard tray and cable management, which is absolutely brilliant. First, we have the removable and adjustable motherboard tray with properly tightened thumb screws from the factory, which you can use your fingers and not a screwdriver. Props to Lian Li for that. It is fully removable if you want to work with it outside the case. The motherboard tray has two positions, low mode and high mode. In low mode, it gives you access to install two 120mm fans for exhaust at the rear, which is awesome because not only does it look super cool, but also has some useful functionality. So let's say installing a 240 radiator as well, which at the back is pretty unique. And you also have this first slot adjustable PCI bracket that you can flip and inverse to make room for a 240 radiator. When I was first installing those rear fans, I had to bend the frame a little bit because it was bulging out a little bit and was interfering with my blades, so something to keep in mind. The metal here is good, but it's flexible. Also, I don't understand why the metal mesh has to be so closed off. You know, you're exhausting air from the back, and so it would be nice for that area to be a little bit more open maybe. In low mode, the GPU is closer to the bottom if that's your thing. It might also be better for micro ATX motherboard, so it doesn't look so out of place and small. This mode also reveals 2 additional cable cutouts right above the motherboard for whatever cable you want, but these little rubber covers are great in hiding the cutout, but they're very small cutouts for the actual cables, so they get quite tight. And also in low mode, the system is actually more visible for me personally when viewed from an angle at the top, because now everything's kind of in view and not being hidden by the top glass panel. Maybe hidden is not the right word, but we do have a line where the 2 pieces of glass meet, and you avoid having that line in the sight of your hardware, basically. Hope that makes sense. In high mode, which is what the case comes with, you get basically more clearance at the bottom for radiators and set of fans and only a single rear exhaust fan. I actually prefer this for the white case because everything is a bit more open and airy in terms of the visuals, and using a 360 AIO on the side really ties everything together, so it doesn't feel like the motherboard is like way too low. It actually looks really good. The side fan bracket can mount a 360 rad. Of course, it's reversible, which is something of a Lian Li staple. I love this feature, basically giving you extra clearance for a push and pull. Unfortunately, the side brackets on my cases have a lot of play. They don't produce any vibrations, luckily, and also the weight of the fans and the radiator would kind of stabilize the bracket in place, but the bracket on the O11D Evo is totally flush and is not moving anywhere. The bottom bracket, of course, is also removable with this massive dust filter that is the performance kind, so it's gonna capture a lot of dust, while the side panel on the right has that performance metal mesh, so it's good for both airflow and dust capture. So fan and radiator support is very similar to the O11D Evo, just nothing at the top. Now for cable management, this case is brilliant. First of all, we have a longer rubber grommet beside the motherboard to accommodate that adjustability in 2 positions, which means you have full precision on where you want that 24-pin cable to exit. This part is also angled, so the curve is easier to do, unlike the 90-degree frame on the O11D Evo. All the little crevices and cutouts for our fan cables are perfectly placed. The front I/O is easy to manage because everything is already kind of pre-routed. At the bottom, all the cables are nicely collected. The USB 3 cable, it is nicely and flexible. No longer do you have this stiff connector you have to fight on. And I absolutely love these metal holders. Not only can you squeeze the larger cables underneath them, but we have this Velcro strap right on top, which is awesome for smaller cables, and this entire grid on where you can mount these cable holders, including flipping them for a vertical mount for exiting cables. It's awesome. At the back, you can see the power supply mount has a protrusion of 15 millimeters, which is good for the interior for additional clearance, but also you can have these large cable tie points for additional cable organization. And in the end, everything is well hidden by this storage cover that is no longer on thumb screws. It's magnetic, so it's a lot easier to work with. It can house 3 SSDs, and we also have 2 of these drive caddies above the power supply for 2 additional devices. If you've worked with an O11 before, this will be very familiar, but this is one of the easiest cases to work in. I love the cable management approach, especially those cable brackets, absolutely brilliant for a no effort and a super clean system in the end. By now, I think you're aware that the O11V is all about showmanship, ease of use, and a really pleasant building experience, but without sacrificing on performance. So temperatures on the CPU are identical to the O11D Evo when I do the 3 side intakes and 2 rear exhaust, and it actually performs surprisingly well in this entire case stack. The same goes for the GPU. The O11V and the D Evo can be made to match their cooling potential, especially with the O11V in low mode because of the dual 120mm exhaust fans. And honestly, a 360 AIO will do an adequate job in either enclosure. It's just that the O11 Vision has a bit more focus on presentation. And with that, I think the price point of $139 to $149 is very competitive to what you get with the O11D Evo. So I'm glad at least they're not competing with each other. So you kind of choose between, vision, presentation focus, or a bit more performance and more, feature rich on the Evo, and I would love to see more accessories on the Vision, like a mirrored top panel that reflects your interior when at this sort of angle would look fantastic. We saw one in Computex. It was beautiful. Honestly, this is one of my favorite fish tank enclosures because the user experience is on point and the visuals are on point as well. And this being a showcase presentation case, they've nailed that target core functionality of it. So let me know if you agree. I'm Dmitry. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you in the next video.